Okay, weather modification is a big topic, and it's not happening by coincidence. It's because we're seeing a lot of weird things, even here in California where we're sitting. Weird things have been happening over the past few years. We're talking about floods, fires, earthquakes, small-scale tsunamis, and a lot of these things were predicted in advance. Now we have to ask the question, how do people know? It's not because they're prophets. It's because there are plans that are being executed with certain intentions and agendas that are happening all around the world. Let's start, if you want to go to climate change for a second, the climate's always changing. The climate's always been changing. The hoax behind the climate change narrative is why and how they say it's changing. Because we know that there was an ice age, and we know that now there isn't. And back when things started melting from the ice age to now, it's not because of pollution. It's because things change. So it used to be called global warming. It had to be changed to be called climate change because it wasn't fitting the narrative of always warming every single year. So they just went to something that was more neutral and called it climate change. And there was an agenda behind that. So let's start changing the way that people use technology. Let's move from gas into electricity. It's not exactly what we're being told, and there's a big illusion being painted over here, but we'll put that to the side for now. Weather modification, a lot of people have for a long time been calling, it's nonsense, it's a conspiracy theory. And suddenly I started seeing the fires in California, and I started seeing the fires in Australia. And they had a name to those fires in Australia because of how intense they were. It was super unusual a few years ago. Now that has to do with something called HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. There's other things called cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is a way of seeding the clouds with salt and a few other chemicals to make it rain more. They do this in Dubai and Abu Dhabi right now because they need more rain. So there are known technologies with why they say they're using them, and then there's what's actually going on. They do come out and say we're using things like stratospheric aerosol injections, which is injecting aerosols into the stratosphere to create a chemical cloud in order to stop global warming. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. They're basically creating a chemical cloud. They also acknowledge that with SAI, stratospheric aerosol injections, when you do that, you can also cause a lot of problems for other countries. John Brennan, the ex-director and head of the CIA, spoke about this at the Council of Foreign Relations. He spoke about this publicly. It's on camera. So what I'm sharing with you right now is not a conspiracy. It's something that you can look into, and they acknowledge weather modification is a real thing. Even Wikipedia, that lies to us, speaks about this. So they've acknowledged that weather modification is a thing. The negative side of that is if we have the power to make it rain, we also have the power to make it flood. If we have the power to make it flood, we also have the power to destroy certain populations, certain nations, certain economies. If you have the power to do that, we're just talking about rain right now, they also have the power to create fires. That's using technologies like electromagnetic laser pulsation. You can actually, and there are pictures of this, shooting lasers using electromagnetic laser pulsation from space. You're using satellites to do things like that, and targeting certain areas to create fire. You looked at what happened in Lahaina. I was just there in Maui. There was a perfect ring of fire around the city. That's not how a forest fire happens. That's called direct energy weapons, DEWs, D-E-Ws. So everything that you're seeing, by the way, if you look at the certain celebrities' homes on that island, because a lot of them live there, they're all painted with the same color blue, and it's a specific variation of the color blue. And if I take laser technology to try and make a fire, it will not burn that color blue. So there's a lot of intentions of why you're seeing things happen. Destroying economies, destroying nations, weakening stock markets, weakening financial systems, weakening people and having them become more dependent on something like what would eventually become a one world order.